You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as previewing the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbay, and Speaker. I'm Miranda Morales, one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, and I'm going to be bringing in my two amazing co-hosts. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well, sir. How are you?
I am doing fantastic.
Ah, fantastic, man. Excellent, excellent. And the third member of this trio's team is, well, who?
Who?
It is the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
That's right. It's me. It's always me.
Yeah, I know. I pretty much don't change up the order. Pretty much been saying the same thing for the past 38 episodes. It's really not a surprise to anyone now, but you know what?
It's part of our charm.
It's still a surprise to Conan. That's
man, we've been running long enough to have inside jokes like that. Wow, that's true. I mean, I don't know if we ever fully explained what that means, but yes, that's another story for another day. You got to tune in to listen to that whenever we reveal the behind the scenes, the secrets of the show. But yes, it does have something to do with Conan and even Disco Inferno, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Disco was definitely there. And they thought that I was Buddy Murphy.
I mean, it's Dusty and Buddy.
Yep.
I'm kind of sad you guys aren't attached.
Me too. I mean,
it could happen.
Hire me, WWE. Yeah.
Hire me. A big week here in the United States, where we had our presidential inauguration. Very much a big event, took up a lot of TV time, lots of things on social media. So I think we are still riding on that news cycle wise. But, you know, this also brings up some interesting developments that we've heard. This was posted on Cubs Fan, about some other political aspirations that we've heard about, specifically from a few luchadors who are interested in running for public office. It seems like three very notable luchadors in Mexico are looking to run and hold public office there. Blue Demon Jr., also possibly with Blue Demon, Carístico and Tinables, all indicated they wanted to run for public office. And I don't know.
For the same party. They're all members of the same party. And they're all running masked, and they're all running under their lucha names. And what's more than that, Blue Demon says if elected, he's going to serve in the mask and the outfit, like bare-chested with the cape on and the mask. That's like one of his campaign promises, yeah.
He's got my vote.
Yeah, he has absolutely my vote, though we cannot vote in Mexico. I have a high appreciation for them keeping kayfabe characters.
Oh, me too.
I mean, it runs deep there, so I absolutely respect that would also hold true in political office. I can't imagine that ever happening here. I don't think it's legal here in the States where you can. I mean, maybe you can, but I guess the closest thing we have to this is Kane. And
Yeah.
Glenn Jacobs did
Yeah.
not, put the mask on.
So one of the things that Blue Demon did say is that if he wins, he does have a way to prove without taking off his mask that he is in fact Blue Demon Jr. So I don't know what he's got up his sleeve or under his mask.
You got lots of things. You got fingerprint, DNA.
Yeah.
But those are all associated with real names. So I don't know, but
maybe they have a child come forward, slap him, he immediately starts bleeding from the forehead, and we're like, that's Blue Demon, I see him.
Totally Blue Demon.
I was going to say, you take the DNA of Blue Demon, then you take the DNA of Blue Demon Jr., and then there has to be a level of science involved in it, but yeah, that's also
and
more
they don't correspond.
No, that's true, they don't.
That's true.
There was an adoption. For a little while.
No, that's the swerve. They find out that's not his child, and that's a story, actually. Yeah. They're just building story for the next thing.
I'm totally involved in all this. But I tell you, if Glenn Jacobs had run in the mask, I would have moved to that county and voted for him. So,
yeah. It's got to be Kane.
It's gotta be Kane. That would have been such a good campaign line. Oh my gosh, it's such a good campaign line. Totally wasted. Yeah. I guess
WWE couldn't risk that he'd lose with that campaign line.
Linda lost a bunch, and they seemed fine with it. Did I say that?
It's all right. They don't listen to the show anyway.
We agree they don't listen to the show. Good. I guess we're just gonna have to wait till The Rock runs. That's gonna be the closest that we have to this. So once The Rock runs for president, then we'll finally know what it's like to have a pro wrestler hold office that prestigious. But that's fascinating news that all three have decided to run for public office in character as part of the same political party. I think it's a very interesting way to show the differences between how wrestling is handled in the States and lucha libre is viewed in Mexico, and
just a huge part of I honestly think Blue Demon has a really good chance of winning.
I do too.
How respected a figure he is. Yeah. Like he's a trustworthy person, despite the fact that he attacked Dr. Wagner with a brick. Just no. He's certifiably trustworthy.
He had his reasons.
He had his reasons. I mean, he probably felt attacked.
I'm sure Dr. Wagner earned it in some way, but
nobody pulls a brick as their opening move. Like that took some leading up to.
And that shows he's a man that will fight for the people. He will fight for them with bricks. I already feel safer already.
I love it.
Love it. Love the taxes. Well, very interesting week here in the United States, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the political scene in Mexico. We'll keep you updated as we hear more information about that. Who knows? Yeah, pro wrestler by day. Is that what would be the day job? Politician by day, pro wrestler by night. Really?
That sounds like a Blue Demon movie.
Yeah.
It's. Or a sitcom.
El Mayor.
Mayor by day, wrestler by night. I love it. I love it.
I do too. I would watch that.
Money.
And then people that oppose him politically to wrestle him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how it goes. Oh, great. Well, with that, we got a packed show this week. As always, lots of news and information to share with all of you. But we're going to kick it off as we normally do with the road back to shows with Brendan.
Oh, wow. No, okay. So I'm going to start with Mexico City is still red. I'm having some real confusion here, though, because I had the right notes up, but I'm looking at the wrong things. Mexico City is still red. It's all red. Everything's bad. And then Oh, I'm stalling here. There we go.
Red, wow. I mean, well, it was orange for quite some time, means
Yeah.
they backtracked red.
It's
so
enough
that means...
to make anybody dizzy to see the change.
Yeah. No, there we go. No, okay, so now that I found the proper notes, it was not anything more insightful. It's just we can't have nice things. To be honest, though, it's another week, and the vaccine becoming more available, maybe it'll start declining soon, but I really don't know. I would say that in another week they'll probably still declare it red. They redefined what a little bit the red and orange will look like, but they're not dramatically different. It's just more about trying to make people have a better understanding that they should go home and not conduct secret wrestling shows when it's red in Mexico City. So there we are. We no longer get the glorious repetition of Mexico City is still orange because it's red. Moving on. We had a fun story from Wrestling Inc. this week about Rush talking with the WWE. Apparently, according to Rush, they didn't offer him enough money. So, probably not going to NXT. I mean, based on those of you who listen to the show regularly, based on how we feel that luchadors get treated in the WWE, I am happy with this outcome. Mm-hmm. And if he can turn that into more money in his negotiations with ROH or AEW or even MLW, more power to him, because he is still one of the hottest independents right now. And then there was a slightly less fun story where we had a fan has come forward and accused Dr. Wagner Jr. of bullying her at a show in Reynosa. There was Facebook footage of this, but I could not really make anything out. According to the fan, he insulted her, reached for her, possibly touched her inappropriately. I don't know. I don't have the full accusation on that. He has denied most of this. He did say that he reached for her. He looked at her phone, trying to do a spot that I've seen 1,000,001 luchadors do to people who are too busy typing to enjoy the show, which is stopping and asking what's going on, or who's more important than watching my match, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But it's just, it's a serious accusation, so I don't want to make it sound like, he's absolutely innocent, but he's gone on record denying it. He did a video interview, stated that that's what he was doing. He was teasing the fans, and then he was teasing her about being on the cell phone. He doesn't, he just hasn't specifically addressed the other part, so I'm not going to comment on whether or not he said that, but, hopefully we have more information on the story later. I really hope it's just a misunderstanding, because that would be an unfortunate misstep for him at this point in his career. It would probably be a career.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is my very brief road back to shows, because Mexico City is still red, and a lot of places are taking appropriate measures and not doing anything. I didn't have much to go with this week. Same thing with the Indie Roundup, so we can just go straight into that. No, I don't really have anything for the Indie Roundup this week. I will point you guys to Coastal Championship Wrestling's YouTube channel. They have put up a number of good matches and good events in the last few weeks. They have lots of lucha talent and lots of lucha associated talent, so well worth doing it. Mas Lucha's YouTube channel also is putting up content that is older, but a lot of people haven't seen it, so really a good idea right now if you're hungry for lucha to go there. And then even Cubs fan who runs Lucha Blog has a massive library of old lucha matches. It's a good time to go back and see some historic matches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. and of course luchacentral.com has lots of that stuff too. So, we always praise that. I figured for the Indie Roundup, I'd mention some people that are putting up good stuff this week. And once again, I'm going to ask you, the promoters and wrestlers out there, if you guys are running safe shows, just go ahead and give me a link, and I will be on the air. I will watch your stuff. Happily watch your stuff if it's a safe show. So my information will be given out at the end of the show, but please give us a line.
Thank you. Yeah, you can follow also Coastal Championship WrestlingFL.com for information, and I believe they have some content on there as well. So, but yeah, that's how you get into Brendan's good graces, by running safe shows. If you don't know now, what's the secret to this? Make sure you are running very safe shows, meaning social distancing measures, being able to hold and honor safety protocols, sanitation, screenings, all of the above. So if you're wondering how you catch Brendan's eye,
there's two ways. Right now, the biggest priority is run a clean show, but always, if you run a great show, I will and put it in front of me. I will watch it and talk about it forever. My coworkers are tired of hearing about it, but I don't care.
Hey, that's fair enough. That's your portion of the show. You run it how you see fit. So no complaints here. Well, with that, thank you, Brendan, for the road back to shows in the Indie Roundup. Next, we're going to kick it to Denise Salcedo with this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Math, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And as always, a huge thank you to Denise Salcedo, who always brings us this week's Lucha Central. Also, you can find a lot of her content on Lucha Central's website and YouTube page. She tends to do big reviews of different events after they occur. I know she did one for Hard to Kill from this past week. I know she's going to be doing one for the Royal Rumble. So check her out at luchacentral.com and Lucha Central's YouTube page. Speaking of the Royal Rumble, well, we're not going to talk about it this week, but it is WWE related, so you know what that means. Dusty, take it away with this week's SmackDown, Raw, and main event. Look, we threw some new things in there.
Yeah, new stuff all the time. But first up, we had Friday Night SmackDown. And on Friday Night SmackDown, we had Rey Mysterio versus King Corbin. I wasn't terribly excited when I heard this match announced, but I know that Rey Mysterio can easily exceed expectations, so I gave it a chance. We start out with Dominic on commentary. He teases Michael Cole a little bit about being old and says that he plans to capture the tag team gold with his dad this year. And commentary consistently referred to Rey as one of the greatest of all time, but despite all of that, this match was very flat at best. Corbin goaded Dominic the entire match, then threatened to have the match called a disqualification for Dominic interfering. I think it was supposed to show like what an effective heel King Corbin is or something, but it just gave me like a disgusted apathy as a viewer. It ended with Dominic trying to get in the ring, and then he gets thrown out of the ring, and Rey got pinned as a result of the distraction. Dominic seemingly injured his leg. And this just felt like an angle we've seen over and over with father and son, and it was just kind of uninteresting, which is sad for people as talented as Rey and Dominic and even King Corbin. He was the Golden Gloves here in Kansas City. You know, like he is very talented, and they all deserved better than this match. It just never hit its rhythm. It was flat. It just wasn't very effective for me, but hopefully it builds to something more, and if we get to see Dominic in the ring more as part of this, I would be excited for that. So we'll see what happens. And Raw, well, on Monday Night Raw, we had Lucha House Party joining Matt Riddle against the Hurt Business. Now, as a quick refresher, we had Lucha House Party getting a surprise win on the Hurt Business 2 weeks ago. And then last week, Matt Riddle was hanging out with the Lucha Bros backstage in a very quick segment, which somehow led to Matt Riddle joining Lucha House Party. And now I think it's again, I just said Lucha Bros, it was a mistake, but Lucha House Party with Matt Riddle, you see where that goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, the name writes itself.
It does.
If there's not a shirt that comes out in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be shocked.
Well,
yeah. That Pentagon may have.
We might get Kevin talking about copyrights. Yeah.
If you add a few O's in there, like bros, do you avoid the copyright? Are they there? We may need to get Kevin on this
Bros
stat.
Party, maybe, or Lucha Bro Party. I don't know.
Yeah.
That actually sounds really good. I like.
Yeah, it does.
That.
And Matt Riddle's a very high profile wrestler to pair him with. You know, I mean, like that's a good placement, and everybody went for it in this match. It was so good. Lindsay had some very stiff strikes against Cedric Alexander, but unfortunately for us Lucha fans, this match was largely about the story between the Hurt Business and Cedric Alexander being happy within the Hurt Business, and it ended with Bobby Lashley getting a submission win on Grand Metalik. After the match, Riddle attacked Lashley from behind like a good face does, then leaves the ring in a hurry while MVP held Sheldon back, handed him his title, handed Cedric his title, and they left. And so it feels like this is building to something, and it feels like it's also building to something within the Hurt Business. So I think that we could very feasibly see Lucha House Party become tag team champions on Raw. They're right up there.
Don't fill me with false hope, Dusty. Just don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I appreciate the optimism. I love where you're going with this. However, have you been watching wrestling Raw for I don't know, the past 5 years? I just wanted to say, Not sure about it, but I appreciate the optimism here because
Yeah, they don't feel as close as Angel and Andrade did over the summer, but other than that, it feels
and
like
they
the
never
closest
got the
we've had to a
titles.
Lucha
Like they
tag team.
literally
Never.
were
Yeah.
inches away and never got it. So again, do you watch it? Is it a
Yeah.
casual thing? Do you just pop in
You
and
just
out?
had to say. You just had to say that part out loud. Now I'm sad again.
That was the reminder.
You just brought it all back.
Always something there to remind me.
Oh yeah, don't worry. We'll be talking more about
But
Lucha House Party later on, and that will make us happy again. So
And speaking of Angel Garza, on main event, Angel Garza and his cousin Humberto, they seem to be regulars right now on main event. So I'm going to start covering the show as long as it remains lucha relevant to us, which has been a lot lately. We've seen Lince Dorado on there in a few singles matches. We've seen Metalik in a singles match, some of them against Garza. So it's exciting, and that seems to be the place for luchadors right now in WWE. And that is on Hulu Wednesdays at noon, from what I understand. But our first matchup this week was Angel Garza defeating Akira Tozawa. Angel had a great spot early in the match where he tore the pants off and threw him in Tozawa's face. Then he kicked him in the face so he couldn't see it coming. And he seems to be working very rudo now. He ran Tozawa's nose along the rope and then he ran up and did a head kick and gave us a really nice tranquilo pose in the corner. And then later in the match, he showed off his submission techniques. He finally hits the wing clipper for the win. And again, he posed tranquilo on the ropes. And so we have to wonder what this means for Andrade, because that was his pose in WWE, and so is he doing it to honor him, or is he doing it, is Andrade going to be mad when he comes back? It builds a lot of interest in what could be going forward there. And in our main event on WWE Main Event, we had Humberto Carrillo going up against Drew Gulak. Humberto has grown a beard, and his baby face is given way to a much better and tougher look. Like, he really looks good now. This was a great match. They had an amazing spot where Gulak lifted Humberto by the chin from behind, and he was able to flip out of it. We come back from commercial to find Drew in command with an arm submission hold, but Humberto was able to power out. He delivered some punches to Drew, then found his opening with a big kick to Gulak's face, hit a flip into a backbreaker for a pin attempt, and then Humberto's momentum went to 11. It just turned into a stunning run. He punctuated it with a picture-perfect moonsault to Gulak from the top turnbuckle and got the win. And it was amazing. If you are fans of lucha, and even WWE lucha, but like Drew Gulak is such an amazing talent, and the chance to see a match like that is fantastic, and it was such a good match. So I really recommend everybody check that out. I think after a certain amount of time, it's on the free version of WWE Network, but I'm not certain of that. But I hope everybody gets the chance to start checking out Main Event on a regular basis, because that seems to be where the lucha talent is right now, for better or for worse.
Yeah, they're spread around. That's absolutely for certain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'll talk about that later on when we talk about NXT and even 205 Live. They're starting to spread them out more, which I think in some ways is really good, because they have all of these products that don't always necessarily get the same amount of viewership, but allows them to be in front of the TV, get that TV time. That maybe something that they do, say in one show can translate to another. So, I can appreciate that even if they are, say, on Main Event, that, you have to find on Hulu. It's still great that, they're on there compared to not being there at all.
Yeah, that's just it. They're getting TV time. They're getting practice in front of the camera. And Main Event may not be the flagship show, but to be the only two matches on the show, to be lucha matches like that's pretty incredible, honestly. And so it's a really exciting time. And like Miranda said, I hope we see some cross-promotional, cross-brand synergy between 205 Live. we got some more about that coming up. But I really hope we, kind of get to see the rub where everything's interconnected. AEW has shown people are willing to do that with Dark and being the Elite, that people will catch multiple avenues of entertainment to get the full picture. And so hopefully WWE is trying to do something like that now that we have so much going on and so much lucha action that can be, spread out and cross-promoted like that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is also a busy time in WWE coming up with the Rumble, and then also to WrestleMania season, and storylines are important. If you want to get a spot on WrestleMania, if you have a storyline that's intriguing enough, that may help to get you to that level. So I think this is a great time now. If you start building storylines on any brand, that can help get eyes on you to the point where, if you have a compelling story, you may show up on a pay-per-view such as WrestleMania.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Angel was actually recently announced for an Elite Series figure, too, through the WWE Mattel line. I believe it's Series 84. And so there's a lot going on for Angel right now. And hopefully, he's somebody that could see that in WrestleMania spot through his talent and kind of placement and ability there. I just hope we get to see it come to fruition.
Well,
Yeah, history.
Did we watch it or not? Up next, Dusty, you're going to be taking us through AEW Dark and Dynamite.
Yeah, first up on AEW Dark this week, we had a match between dinosaurs and dragons for supremacy. There's only room for one in AEW. Who shall it be? Well, it was Luchasaurus. He defeated Brandon Cutler in the opening match. Following that, we had a fantastic match between Sammy Guevara and El Australiano, formerly known as Australian Suicide, in AAA. This was a great match, excellent pacing. It had the best rhythm of any match of the night on Dark. And it was just kind of the action we expect from Sammy Guevara and the former Australian Suicide. Sammy continues to look like a genuine star in everything he does. He's obviously ascending right now. He got the win after a big GTH just before the 6-minute mark, but afterwards he cut a really long promo about having a chip on his shoulder and how he feels he's carrying AEW, and he also feels he's the best worker in the promotion and that he's coming for every single AEW title. And it was fantastic. The more mic time they give him, the better he gets. And Sammy Guevara is a talent, and AEW knows what they've got with him, and it is so exciting. Because we were just talking about Angel. They don't know what they have with Angel Garza and WWE, but AEW absolutely knows what they have with Sammy, and they are trying to give him some seasoning on the microphone right now and sending him out there by himself to do monologues, and it is so good because, he did one either last week or the week before, and it was pretty good, but a little shaky. He was miles better this week. You can tell, it's and to get that good that quickly is just, it's almost unheard of. He's such a natural talent for this that if he isn't one of the very, very big guys, I will just be shocked. And then our next match, we had his stablemates in Inner Circle, Santana and Ortiz, defeating John Cruz and Danny Limelight in a quick match that shows us why Proud and Powerful are one of the best tag teams on the planet. It didn't last long, but the teamwork and tag teamwork between these guys is top notch. It leads into tomorrow night's, at that time, appearance on AEW Dynamite. And so, it was nice to see them dominant and come out like a tag team. And like I said, they are one of the best tag teams on the planet, and it showed. But speaking of the best tag team on the planet, we had Ivelisse and Diamante defeating Tesha Price and Catalina Perez. Ivelisse and Diamante Yes, they are not here to mess around. They are they are two of the baddest wrestlers in the world, and they came together to make like the most perfect tag team. They're 9-2 in tag action now, and it really makes you wish that they had a women's tag roster with some depth, because these are the immediate stars of your division. Like, they are better than what AEW has to offer, and that is incredible, because with the talent in AEW, you wouldn't hear that said very often, or at least said believably. But truly, Ivelisse and Diamante are better than what the AEW women's tag team division has to offer. A lot of these women are first-time tag teams they put them up against, and we see technical masterpieces, but we don't get to see. It's like being in a band when you're amazing and everybody else isn't very good, and so no matter how amazing you are, you can't elevate yourself when the players around you aren't up to your level. And I don't know who they're going to get that's up to their level, like I say, but I would love to see it, because these two are fantastic stars. Following that, we had the Acclaimed defeating Shawn Dean and Fuego del Sol. Someday Fuego del Sol will hit that tornado DDT, but it wasn't this week again either. Yeah. But then, right where we want to see... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that's ever gonna happen.
This show is super pessimistic today. Like, we start out super low. Like, what happens when you start with WWE? Like, it's just down here. Oh my God. I just was noticing a theme.
But we do have some good news, like right after that, right where we want to see them in the main event. We had Lucha Bros with Pac versus the Chaos Project. And it was exactly what you want to see from these guys, too. Serpentico may now be one of the most effective weapons in wrestling when launched by Luther. Like, it's so good. Despite being that good, and despite some great tag team work at the end to try to stop the Lucha Bros 2-man pile driver by Luther, Phoenix did some amazing rope walking. We've mentioned, rope walking kind of nods to Grand Metalik, who used to be Mascara Dorada, but this was something else. I mean, this was incredible. He ran across the top rope and super kicked Luther at the same time that Penta super kicked Serpentico, and that gave them the momentum to get the double underhooks on Serpentico and hit the 2-man pile driver and get the pin for Lucha Bros. This was a fantastic match, and if you only watch one match this week on Dark, it should be this match. If you watch two, watch Sammy Guevara versus Australian Suicide. If you only watch one, watch Lucha Bros versus Chaos Project. It was really fun, really good, and like I say, it's exactly what you want from those guys.
Absolutely.
Then the next night we have...
For some I was just going to say, for some optimism, I think that Sammy is just rising even faster. I believe we nominated him for a Rising Star.
We did.
And, it just may have been a year too soon. This might be his year.
I already feel like this is his year. And and we roll into that because when it's Wednesday, you know what that means. It's Dynamite. And first up, we had Hangman and the Dark Order versus TH2 and the Chaos Project. The setup for this match was that the Dark Order was having a birthday party for their child leader. And you know that -1 said some things that hurt Luther's feelings. So he showed up here. Yeah. Mean things. Told them that he was stupid. And,
That's not -1's fault. Like, I'm just here to say that that's not, I mean, like, he's telling the truth. Isn't that what we're supposed to teach children, to tell the truth? And now he's getting punished by some people ruining his birthday party for it? Rude.
Yeah. Can you imagine being Luther and your feelings are so hurt that you show up to ruin a child's birthday party?
I mean, it is Luther, so it's...
And then not only do you ruin the party, for whatever reason, Angelico and Jack Evans run in to back you up because they love a party pooper.
They're just anti-party that they're not invited to.
Yeah, they knew the party was back in their dressing room. Yeah. And then Hangman Page comes out to join the Dark Order with a big dive off the stage into the grouping, and it was a really fun match. It was mostly to tell the story of Page and Dark Order, but there was a real highlight in the match when Luther used Serpentico as a weapon, then used Jack Evans as an aerial assault weapon, then assisted Angelico by running back against the ropes and assisting him into a bulldog, and against John Silver, and every one of them acted like it was the most painful thing they'd been through in forever. Like you could see it on their face, like that hurt.
Is that something in AEW where I feel like they either oversell or undersell? Like, I just feel like that's a theme in AEW. Like either they're overselling or like they don't sell enough. There's nothing in the middle.
Nothing in the middle.
Nothing in the middle. Yeah, just an observation. Continue.
It was also, I want to point out, a surprise for every single one of their teammates that they were being assisted in that particular manner. Like, Angelico was like, go to the ropes, I'm going to do a thing, and then he comes off the ropes and bulldogs Angelico instead. So, yeah, it
was crazy. Yeah, I loved the match. It was fun, and it was mostly a story match, but there's no way not to enjoy it. Like, it was just so good. And then in some non-match action, we had a women's world title eliminator tournament announced. And so, maybe we'll see Reina de Reinas Taya show up in the world title tournament. Who do we know might show up? And the background graphics specifically showed a U.S. flag and a Japanese flag. That could be a reference to Shida being Japanese and being the champion, but it also gave it the feel that there might be more of a worldwide tournament. So the possibilities are endless and exciting. And after that, we go backstage, and Gallows and Anderson and Omega are attacking Penta El Zero. It was crazy. Anderson chokes him with an extension cord. Omega has these Beetlejuice boots. I don't even know what to call them. And they're stomping him with the boots, but then he takes off the boots to make a weapon. And don't you know, the one night Pentagon doesn't wear an eye patch in his match, Kenny pokes his eye out with the one night.
Yeah, the one night.
What is it with luchadors and their eyes, though? I mean, seriously.
I don't know. It's what they use to emote. Like all you see is eyes and sometimes mouth, and so
that's where it's vulnerable. Also, if you don't know, I mean, that's one of the softest spots in the entire head. So it is the most vulnerable, points. You gotta screen it.
But this led to an announcement for us that at Beach Blast on February the 3rd, it will bring us Moxley, Pac, and Phoenix versus the Super Elite to try to get their retribution on everything that's been going on. And we will have Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. So mark your calendars, February 3rd, Dynamite Beach Blast. I mean, it's really looking exciting. Next week, we also have Dax Harwood versus Jungle Boy. And so that'll be an exciting match, too. I'm looking forward to that. You never know what will happen on AEW. Speaking of, we had our main event. Chris Jericho and MJF versus Santana and Ortiz versus Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager, who is going to be the tag team of Inner Circle. And Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager had the tag name Sammy Hagar, and Sammy Hagar himself showed up via video to wish them well and wish them luck before the match. It was incredible.
It was super cool.
That's big league. That's pretty impressive.
And I will give a little spoiler here at the beginning. I always thought that it was going to be Sammy who left the Inner Circle first, because there was some dissension and strife there. But now I think it could be Proud and Powerful, because this match has absolutely sown the seeds of dissension within the group.
Yeah.
Despite being the best and only real tag team of the group, and Sammy obviously looking like the rising star of the group that we talked about, and it looked like it could be him at points in the match. It was MJF and Jericho who became the official tag team of the Inner Circle, and then the show ended immediately. Immediately.
So have to wait and see what the fallout's going to be. I actually enjoyed that they did it that way.
It was a perfect ending. It's interesting. Like I say, Santana and Ortiz in the match were the obvious tag team. Like, they worked together flawlessly. But for whatever reason, it felt like in the entire show, it felt like the rhythm was never quite right. You'd see on occasion tag teams like TH2 and Santana Ortiz were in rhythm with each other, but never really perfectly in rhythm with their opponents. And this was a rare misstep when Dynamite was just okay, but not great for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, we'll see what happens. It was also a building show. A lot of it is building to things that are happening. And so it's hard to judge it on a traditional show standing for that reason.
Here's one of the takeaways that I really liked from this match. You had 3 heel tag teams, but you still had an emotional investment. I found myself emotionally invested in seeing Jericho and MJF not winning.
Yeah, me too. I definitely. And I also didn't want to see Sammy win in a way, because even though I love the Sammy Hagar name, he's too good to be stuck in a tag team. He needs to be a singles guy.
And that tag team, I mean, just wouldn't have been the best fit.
No, especially for him. Yeah, when he was in Les Sex Gods with Jericho, that was a pretty good placement, and it helped advance him. But the Sammy Hagar thing did nothing for anybody. It was just a funny name, and they were smart to hit it and quit it and get out of there. Like it was a one-note joke, and they played it for one note.
And you kind of see how MJF is ultimately sowing the seeds within the inner circle to break them up.
Absolutely.
You knew that he was going to do that once he joined, but you didn't quite know how. And I think already seeing some of that tension with Sammy, now saying we're the only tag team, so that's already going to also isolate Santana and Ortiz, eventually sowing more seeds. So there's definitely dissension, and you can kind of see how it's almost MJF isolating Chris Jericho from the rest of the group. And so that's pretty good storytelling. I can see what they're doing with this and how, and I think ultimately it's going to lead to the entire inner circle maybe turning on Jericho and MJF. And that's exactly what he wants, it sounds like. So it's just pretty good storytelling, on my thoughts.
They did add an extra layer to it, where Santana and Ortiz very recently, I believe it was only 2 weeks ago, got back into the top 5 tag team ranking, and the announcers put that over during the match. And and that kind of really cemented the fact that this Chris Jericho MJF team is kind of ruining their shot at the tag team title. So I mean, to Dusty's point, that could very well be sowing the seeds where Proud and Powerful just say, screw this, we're going to go for tag team title on our own, and we're not going to be part of the inner circle. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Powerful is most likely to leave Proud and Powerful. I mean, they've been a tag team forever, and they are such an effective and lethal tag team that they... I mean, they cannot be happy being stifled this way. So
exactly, absolutely agree.
It's the best tag team record in Inner Circle. So. Sad day.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we see him back. I mean, in some ways, it's like you kind of have to break up the inner circle to save Proud and Powerful.
Yeah. If you want Proud and Powerful to be a big deal.
And nobody lasts forever. So
Yeah.
you know, eventually it is what it is. It's going to happen. Like I said, I think it's interesting that it's going to be at the hands of MJF, and he's going to say this was my plan all along. It was me. You know, whatever that is. But I do think hopefully too from this, Proud and Powerful do come out a little bit more babyface, like a little bit more sympathy, from pretty much, you know, having to, you know, go through that breakup with the Inner Circle. Who knows? Or maybe they come out with, you know, as bigger, badder heels as before.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Like, see the super Proud and Powerful. I'd love that.
We're actually, the AEW is a little lighter than they were a few weeks ago on babyface tag teams, though, so that may very well be where they're going with them.
Yeah, that would be really exciting too. I mean, I think that a babyface turn could really rejuvenate them, especially if they went up against Jericho and MJF. You know, like that story writes itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it would really add some interesting storytelling to the division, because right now, I mean, like a few weeks ago I wouldn't have said it, but the tag team division seems to be the one that's lacking a little bit on the storytelling. Like, you've got the Young Bucks at the top again, and who they're going to fight next doesn't seem very exciting. So,
No.
you know, building some storyline around teams that aren't part of the title picture is a good way to kind of revitalize that, and then you can have the Bucks go off play in Impact for a little while or whatever they.
Absolutely. Or the turmoil against them, the Good Brothers, whatever happens. Yeah, they could do their own thing, and we could get some other tag teams in there. And ultimately, if they can give us those stories, we'll care about them when they enter the title picture. It'll give us a reason to want them. That's why. Like, I hope we get some more of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. They were doing a good job with that before, so I am optimistic. Unlike with other products that we talked about earlier in the show, I am optimistic with that of our chances here.
Well, don't forget that you can get all of the results for Raw, SmackDown, AEW, Dark, and Dynamite at luchacentral.com. It happens every week, so make sure that if you miss out on those shows, not only do you listen to us, of course, on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, you check out luchacentral.com. Another place that you can check out is massrepublic.com. And Mass Republic in and of itself is a huge entity with a lot of products and services regarding Lucha Libre. But some of the best Lucha Libre gear out there as far as for fans, you can check out what they have on hottopic.com and also on Hot Topic stores. They have shirts on prowrestlingtees.com. Also, the luchaverse.com if you're interested in Lucha Libre comics.
Yes.
Oh,
these are cool.
Man.
Yes.
So good.
The luchaverse.com. You can pre-order comics at this time. I think they do have some available for order right now.
They have the collected version of the first issues available. Which is a fantastic read, and the hardcover version is gorgeous.
It is, and you get the alternate covers and everything, like the variants and whatnot in the hardcover, and it is incredible. Like, the detail is just beautiful.
Also, a lesser known fact: the Luchaverse comics are kind of a love letter to the old luchador movies of old, and maybe, just maybe, if we can get enough people to buy these comics, Kevin can start crafting a way to get people to start making luchador movies again. Right?
Yeah, there might be a spec script in development right now.
Oh, I'm not going to go that far, but I know I know it's a project he would love to do if he thought that if there was a possibility for it. So, you know, buy those comics. Read them, love them, tell the world how much you love them.
Tell the world. TheLuchaverse.com. Also, you can get Mass Republic gear at Amazon. Also, they have a partnership with BottomLineMerch.com. And of course, you can get Lucha Central gear at the Lucha Central gear shop on luchacentral.com. So, we are big fans of Mass Republic, also for just all of the amazing, events that they do. If you are not following Mass Republic or Kevin Kleinrock on social media, we did get a sneak peek of the cookbook. We got a sneak peek of the cover of the cookbook, the Lucha Libre cookbook that should be coming out later this year. Or I think, is it this year?
It's
Time
this year.
flies. Oh my gosh.
We finally escaped the hell that 2020. We're free of 2020.
Sometimes I need reminders because I don't know. I don't know what day or year it is. But yes, the Lucha Libre cookbook is coming out this year. Very excited about that. Yes. How to Eat Like a Luchador, the cookbook, is coming June 2021 from Mass Republic. So Kevin Kleinrock put out a little sneak peek of some of the artwork, and it's coming together. So if you're interested in Lucha Libre gear or just merch, but also getting connected to Lucha Libre comics, of course, check out the luchaverse.com, massrepublic.com, hottopic.com, prowrestlingtees.com, luchacentral.com. I know that's a lot of .coms, so just go ahead and check them out, because it's lots of amazing, just different merchandise that's all available just for you. Up next, we have NXT, this week's NXT, and kind of following in the trends of Dusty here. I'm going to be talking not only about NXT, but 205 Live. You may be wondering why. Well, that's because one of the first round matches of the men's Dusty Classic, happened on 205 Live. Now, this is not something, correct me if I'm wrong, that wasn't really pre-advertised, as something that we were going to have not only on just that episode of 205 Live, but that we were going to have Dusty Classic matches outside of NXT. Is that right? Did I miss something?
No. Well, you missed the big rollout that they should have done and didn't.
Yeah.
I warned you if we talked about this. It's just poor branding all around.
It is, yeah. Like there was no notice.
Yeah. And it could have been easy to do that, to say that this Dusty Classic is too big for just one show, so that they could have done some co-branding. But we got Legado del Fantasma versus the Bollywood Boys on this week's 205 Live, and a fairly quick match. I mean, both teams are a bit high flyer, a bit of fast pace, so there was a lot of similarities in their styles. But a series of double team maneuvers towards the end helped Legado del Fantasma win their first round match. And so when we get to this week's NXT, we already knew, who they were going to face as far as the winner, because we had Imperium versus Lucha House Party. They're both part of the same side of the bracket. This one actually started with Lucha House Party already in the ring and Imperium getting the music, which is always a little disappointing, when you don't get both teams having their proper entrance, especially Lucha House Party. But this one was a mix of styles. Imperium with the European style, which is a little bit more hard-hitting, a little bit more strength-based, but also fantastic ability and teamwork, too, displayed by Imperium. But also some serious hard chops in the ring, too. I mean, they really echoed throughout the Capitol Event Center. But Lucha House Party pulling off the win. And you know what this means. If you've seen the brackets and even storylines, we're going to have Legado del Fantasma versus Lucha House Party in the next round of the Dusty Classic.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm kind of there for that.
That's why I let him put my name on it. I was this excited.
Now, it is pretty interesting that we're getting this so early on in the tournament. There's a part of me that wish we could get this maybe a step further in, because one, the only two Lucha Libre teams in the entire tournament are now going to face each other early on. So we're already going to be without one Lucha team after this match. But this does play into storyline that has been occurring really over the past month now, with Lucha House Party facing Legado de Fantasma. That started when they appeared kind of interrupting Santos Escobar back towards the end of December, really kind of challenging their view of Lucha Libre. We had Gran Metalik face Santos Escobar for the Cruiserweight Championship, with Santos retaining. Now it seems like they're bringing in some other. So now that I think about that, this kind of feels like a copy and paste of what they did on Raw, because now they're teaming up with Kurt Stallion, who is the number one contender for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. He has some beef with Santos. And now as I say this and think about it out loud, you legit have Lucha House Party with one random dude with somewhat long hair. And very different personalities, but legit, you have them partnering with Riddle on one brand, and now on the other one, you have them teaming up with Kurt Stallion on the other. Is that weird?
It just goes to show that they really got rid of Kalisto too early.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
they still on SmackDown. I guess they're just not using them.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like, so the trios aspect
from the Lucha House Party.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
These storylines are kind of showing that they were like, oh, we were gonna use them as a trio, and now I guess we're just gonna put Kurt Stallion in. He's a luchador, right?
Or Riddle in, and and we'll do it on the same week.
At least with Riddle, there's some jokes to be made. Like, I mean, we did. They can mock the Lucha Bros now, and you know.
Yes. Oh, that just makes me laugh every time. Yeah. Sorry. And I get that this is too more like Kurt Stallion is teaming up with Lucha House Party because he has more of a contention with Santos, you know. So it's just kind of more both intertwining that Dusty Classic storyline with the Cruiserweight Championship storyline in kind of one neat, 3-on-3 action.
And I have a scenario here. You did mention that it's the two Lucha teams going head to head, and we're going to be down one. But in my mind, I'm thinking we might be out both of them. I think they're going to fight to a DQ.
Ooh.
And then we will have one fewer team overall moving forward, and that'll speed things along in the brackets. And then it will set up the Lucha House Party versus the Legado del Fantasma feud a little more down the line. So that's my prediction here. I don't normally make a lot of predictions, just fantasy bookings, but I think that's actually where we're gonna go this time.
Bold predictions, but we'll wait. Yeah, we'll wait and see. But also, again, going back to your point, I wish they would have advertised this first round match between Legado de Fantasma and the Bollywood Boys on 205 Live.
Yeah.
I wish that was part of the marketing from day one.
Yeah.
Because there is some, lack of viewership in 205 Live. So it also feels like, they still put the match together, but it doesn't have the same feel of importance because it's not on NXT.
Correct.
And especially now, too, we'll get to it in a second, they started the first round of the Dusty Women's Classic this week. So now you absolutely do need to spread out your tag team action to more than one show because you have two tournaments running simultaneously.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So did they also announce the full women bracket, or are they keeping that under their hat?
No. They did announce that. Part of that too is they have three new signees to the NXT Women's Division, and that includes the now new Gigi Dolan, formerly known as Priscilla Kelly. She's going to be teaming up with Cora Jade, which I'm trying to remember what her name was prior to that, but another independent signing coming onto the Dusty Classic. I think it was Elena Black. Was it? I have to double check.
Yes, that sounds right.
Yes. And then Zoe Stark, formerly known as Lacey Ryan, is going to be teaming up with Marina Shafir.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, big shout out to Lacey Ryan, staple out here in the West Coast, formerly with Future Stars of Wrestling, was their former women's champion. She was with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. She also wrestled for Primetime Live. And although she wrestled for Mission Pro, one of her last matches was with Mission Pro. So, just a big fan of Lacey Ryan. But yes, the brackets came out. We have the team of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell versus Gigi Dolan and Cora Jade. Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon will be facing up against Marina Shafir and Zoe Stark. Then Aaliyah and Jessica Maya versus Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. That's actually happening next week on NXT.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like Aaliyah. Now she has to die. I know. I
really like Aaliyah. I backed her phone. She's been a trooper. She's been with NXT for quite some time.
Yeah, she was on their behind the scenes like reality show and everything. She was she's definitely a trooper and she's come a long way, but man, that's a rough matchup for her.
And then this week we had Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm teaming up to face Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter. I specifically wanted to talk about this as far as Casey Catanzaro and that crazy finishing maneuver that she used to win the match, because we've talked about her in this context before on the show. I know it as far as someone who has an amazing athletic ability. We saw it when she was a competitor on American Ninja Warrior, and she's been able to translate that in a wrestling realm. But someone who is a very natural born high flyer. And someone that as she grows and continues to develop her craft, someone who would greatly benefit from some lucha libre influence, because she already has that natural ability, and kind of incorporating that into her style would make her a crazy, amazing competitor in the future.
Well, we can only hope that some of the available luchadoras show up to train her.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, the biggest name luchadora they have on the training staff, they let go earlier, or in the early part of last year. So.
Yeah. And this, I think, is with time. I mean, she's still very young in wrestling. She's only been doing this for a few years. So I think she still has a lot of time. But I think as she is looking to maybe refine and maybe spice some things up with her wrestling abilities, being able to explore Lucha Libre for her, again, naturally, it was that corkscrew, moonsault, senton. I don't think anybody knows how to quite yet describe it. But it was something that, even though she seemed to have overshot it a little bit or undershot it, depending on how many revolutions she was going for, still really good. I mean, she did that in ways that people
stunning.
Will never do. And so I think that she has something really, really special, and a pretty big upset, beating Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm, really established wrestlers. But I think opportunities like this for Casey, I mean, we saw her too in the Rumble that they had in NXT last year. You know, she ended up taking that Kofi spot to a whole new level. We even saw that in the Women's Royal Rumble as well. So, I mean, she has this really great high-flying ability. I mean, Io Shirai is known as the genius of the sky, but Casey may be coming for that crown pretty quick.
She, based on her skill set and the things we've already seen, she could reach a Morrison-like level, and that's pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do a shout out to her because I thought that was an amazing move. And we've talked about that before. I think even you, Brendan, I know said, fortunately barring and, COVID and things like that, she would have been someone who would benefited from some time, in Mexico, just learning more about Lucha Libre because she already has, a really natural gift with, her aerial moves.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be time for that because she is still a very young person, and hopefully COVID will not last forever. But she will. When she gets that opportunity, she will flourish with that. I'm positive.
Agree. Well, that's this week in NXT. I mean, we did have Karrion Kross pretty much talk about murder, kill Ashanti Adonis. Nothing new, legit. Like he's just continuing to kill at TikTok, So nothing new there, but also it's good to see Karrion back in this role. Still not in the title scene yet, so that does leave a big question mark as to what's next now that he's taking care of Damian Priest. We don't know if he's going back to that. Who knows? But it's still very interesting. So that is this week's NXT. Up next, though, Dusty's going to take us to this week in Lucha Libre history.
Yeah, that's right. Now it's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, amazing videos, video of the day, match of the day, everything. It's all about Lucha Libre, and that's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week I chose January the 19th, 2016, when Esfinge won the 7th edition of the CMLL La Copa Junior after beating Puma at Arena Mexico in Mexico City. The Copa Junior tournament is open only to second, third, and fourth generation luchadors. So you have to be the son or the grandson of somebody to get in. And for the finals, we had, Esfinge and Puma. Esfinge is the son of Magnum, and Puma is the son of El Felino, whose name you probably know. So, these are big deal talent. 16 wrestlers are divided into two groups of 8 that wrestle in the Torneo Cibernetico elimination match, and it happened the 2 weeks before on Fridays. And then the survivor of each qualifying Torneo Cibernetico faced off against each other in the finals on January the 19th. Puma won the first Cibernetico, and Esfinge won the second Cibernetico to qualify for these finals. Puma was definitely the fan favorite going into this, and unfortunately the only match I could find was mostly the highlight reel, but it was genuinely a highlight reel of just amazing lucha action wall-to-wall, with surprise winner Esfinge standing tall in the end. But even though you know who won, I highly recommend you check it out. This is a match that kind of went under the radar for a lot of people, but so much good stuff happens in this match. It's just action-packed in the clips that are on YouTube, and it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of Esfinge or now Puma King. And he, this is his early ascension, and it's really good stuff. What did you pick this week, Brendan?
Well, this week I went with January 20th, 2013, when La Sombra won the NWA World Historic Middleweight Championship, defeating Dragon Rojo Jr. at Day 3 of CMLL and New Japan's Fantastica Mania Tour, and this one was in Korakuen Hall. So it was one of the big nights of Fantastica Mania, and that's one of the reasons that I was excited by this. Anybody who knows that I'm excited about La Sombra matches in general, but this is a Fantastica Mania. This is the time of year when we normally get Fantastica Mania. Unfortunately, COVID happened this year, and there's not a lot of travel from Mexico to Japan. But it was a fantastic match. At the time, I didn't get to go back and see it because it's on the New Japan service, but I went and saw highlights of it. I still really love it. just really, again, kind of emphasizing how much I miss Fantastica Mania and the collision of styles you would get with the Japanese wrestlers and the Mexican wrestlers. And you would have some of these guys that have traveled to either country and are hybrids of both styles, or sometimes you just have complete collisions of the lucha libre style and the strong style. You create some really fantastic matches that way. This was a
absolutely
lucha match, but I mean, fantastic. I chose it because I miss Fantastica Mania, so I'm just going to talk about how awesome Fantastica Mania is.
I actually wasn't able to find the match on New Japan World, by the way. I looked and couldn't find it. So the entire Fantastica Mania that year didn't seem to be available right now. So it's kind of interesting to see what comes of that, too. I mean, most Fantastica Manias are available, so it's unusual. Yeah.
Well, all right. So if you are still a tape trader out there, that's I would probably trade for that year's Fantastica Mania. Miranda, what did you have?
I picked January 18th, 2009, when Hector Garza, Hijo del Fantasma, and La Máscara won the CMLL World Trios Championship after beating Último Guerrero, Atlantis, and Negro Casas. This was at the Arena Colosio in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. And this was during kind of what they would consider a house show. Wasn't a major event. I tried looking for a recording of this, and I'm not as skilled as you guys when it comes to searching for video, and so I did the best that I could, but I couldn't find it, and I was pretty disappointed because I really wanted to watch this. And I am not used to, thinking about what promotions I'm still learning about and still needing to watch. CMLL is still one that I'm still learning about that format. But I do think that in the World Trios Championship sector has some of the best pairings and trios in all of pro wrestling and all of Lucha Libre. The team of Hector Garza, Hijo de Fantasma, and La Máscara, they were actually a team called Los Angeles Rebeldes, which is called the Rebellious or the Rebel Angels. And they actually, from this reign, held the Trios Championship for 474 days. Losing him to La Ola Amarilla on May 7th, 2010. So they held the belts for over a year. And they were one of only two teams to ever hold the Trios Championship twice. Also, Hector Garza himself has held the Trios Championship on 4 different occasions, being the only luchador to hold it in that many scenarios. So I found the history of it, and especially this reign, very interesting because of the length. It still wasn't the longest reigning Trios Championship reign. It's one of the highest ones, but there are 400 plus, 500, 600 day reigns with this title as well. I think they were saying that the longest one was over 1,000 days.
Sounds about
2,000
right.
days.
Yeah.
Some of these are combined.
Sounds about right, yeah.
So, for example, Dr. Wagner Jr. has 4 reigns combined for a total of 2,000 days.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Trying to think of some others, but yeah, it's very, to me, was really interesting, and that trio in particular too. I mean, gosh, on both sides, but specifically Los Angeles Rebeldes is, gosh, I just need to look at more video of them because that dynamic just sounds amazing.
And CMLL is unfortunately very hard to find outside of Mexican tape trading circles. So you don't feel bad for not being able to find that. That's a big ask. I've been trying to find a lot of the classic CMLL period matches out there. So once again, I know some of the fans out there have some of this stuff. So we would love to see some classic stuff. Educate us on what your favorite CMLL The matches they're great.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this week in Lucha Libre history. Make sure you check out luchacentral.com to see this day in Lucha Libre history, where you can find these days and more. Let us know what your favorite day in this week in Lucha Libre history was and why. But speaking of luchacentral.com, Brendan, would you like to tell our listeners more about this lovely website?
Folks, if you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, we need to say that a few more times. Go visit it. luchacentral.com. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. Place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all this, it's free. Like, seriously, what's your excuse? It's free. luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Up next, Dusty has some New Japan news, including when we're going to see Lio Rush next.
Yeah, on Tuesday, New Japan Pro Wrestling announced the next batch of New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong cards for the 122 and 129 shows, and it was revealed that Lio Rush will debut on the January 29th episode. He'll be teaming with TJP and Fred Rosser against El Fantasma, Hikuleo, and Kenta for some exciting six-man tag action. So be sure to tune in for that on January 29th on New Japan Strong.
Speaking of some amazing action, Brendan is going to give us an update on this week's Ring of Honor, including a big main event.
Oh, yeah. So there were a couple things that I wanted to talk about as I was remembering more of this. Ring of Honor announced, first off, something that was very exciting to me, that they have a new ranking system. And I didn't write detailed notes on this because I forgot that this was a part I wanted to talk about, but they did detail that a wrestler can only be in one singles division at a time. So if you're currently contending for the world television title, you are not in the rankings for the world heavyweight title without petitioning to go across. So I already find this to be a very interesting scenario. That means that people that are in the pure division are not eligible immediately to go over to for the heavyweight championship. Kind of adds a fresh element to that. Means that you might get some shakeups now and again by moving people around. Generally, just kind of a neat idea. And they are saying that it's going to be based on a one-loss record, which is and then the quality of your opponents. So ROH doesn't do as many squash matches, so it's not a big factor as the weighting system is over in AEW. And then of course fan interaction. And as I mentioned to off air, a fan interaction, the phrasing on that is much more interesting to me because that implies that having a negative response, but a very strong negative response, is still fan interaction. So you can have heels legitimately shooting up the rankings just because they're getting booed out of the Twitter sphere or wherever people are booing them these days. So that's kind of interesting. But for the exciting stuff, we had a main event where Dragon Lee was defending his title against Rey Horus. And they did interview spots with both of them. They put Rey Horus over, mentioning that he trained under Rey Mysterio Sr. They talked about how he was awarded the name Horus based on his high flexibility and the relationship to the Falcon. And then we got, to the best of my knowledge, it's our first look at a fully Ingobernables embracing Dragon Lee. He was wearing a red and black suit in his interview. He was very definitely taking more of a, well, I believe it's alternative hero is the way that they used to say it back in the day. The Ingobernables sort of attitude where they want you to cheer for them, but they really don't make it easy because they're kind of cocky and arrogant and willing to take a tranquilo pose in the middle of a match, which are things that made them immensely popular. And then that's kind of the attitude we got from him in the match. We had a little more heel tactic, like
awesome.
a fan would easily be excused for thinking that Dragon Lee was working more heel in this match without fully understanding that the Ingobernables kind of do that anyway.
It's their style, man.
It worked. Yeah, it worked really well. Dragon Lee did wind up successfully defending the title. I mean, I can't even begin to describe the massive amount of action that happened in this. It started off with I believe it was just a straight tope over the top, but goodness, it started strong, did not slow down very much in the middle, and then ended with a bunch of really cool looking moves that were coming from nowhere. Like these are two guys that can fly and two guys that are comfortable on the ropes in lots of different places, in the middle of the ropes, in the turnbuckles, all of that. So we're getting moves coming from all angles. Highly watchable match. Like this is
it really
the stuff that I've seen. So in fairness, I have not had a chance to watch NXT yet, but of everything that I watched this week, this is the match that if you only watch one from anything we've talked about, this is the one that I think you should do. I
would agree with that. This was like so good. The big knee strike by Dragon Lee at the end. I mean, like that's not what you usually expect out of Dragon Lee, and like so good. I mean, this was you're getting to see the evolution of him, and it's so exciting to see him kind of becoming Ingobernables. Like that edge is really what he needed. He was great, but there's so much more depth now that it's fantastic.
Yeah, and the slow kind of evolution into that really is doing a fantastic job of telling a story. Like
it is.
Those who missed the early days of Russian La Sombra and others kind of not understanding why the fans didn't hear them and kind of turning to this Ingobernables thing, you're seeing a little hints of it with the way that Dragon Lee is doing it. So, I mean, just kind of very, and as I mentioned off the air, I love that we now have a faction of what more or less Rudo luchadors and a faction of Technico luchadors. So we could see some very traditional lucha libre out of ROH in the very near future, and I'm loving it.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited. And they've shown this week that they can really do it right. They even mentioned that Dragon Lee was 5-0 over Rey Horus before, like outside of Ring of Honor and their matches, and he added it to 6 in this match. But it was cool that they kind of brought up that history between them. And like you mentioned, the story that we're getting with luchadors is kind of unusual for American wrestling. So I hope that this is the momentum keeps up, because it's turning into one of the best products for wrestling, or for lucha wrestling fans in America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And still one of the biggest differences too with Ring of Honor, at least the way that they are presenting their product now compared to AEW and NXT and WWE too, is it's still with no audience. So I feel like there is a difference in the delivery and reception of it, because now with, those companies, whether you have the Thunderdome or, some fans in attendance, they did this without anybody there. And so normally where you have the oohs and the ahs and this is awesome chants, it still was, you look at the performance in a different way because it's in complete silence.
It in some points I thought that kind of hurt this particular match, But overall, I think it enhanced it. Like, there's a couple of points where it feels kind of awkward, like Ray Orus is clapping for a crowd that's not there, and even the commentators commented on that. But for the most part, it felt like that made them work that much harder, because they weren't getting any of that feedback that said they're doing good, so they just kept ramping up that extra notch to try and get a reaction out of a fan who wasn't there. So yeah. I liked
Right. And clipped highlights of this match is available on Ring of Honor's social media page, and I believe we do have results on luchacentral.com. So if you missed it, you can check out some of the highlights on Ring of Honor's social media, and of course, luchacentral.com.
Also, their Honor Club subscription service has it for free through Monday. So when this show goes live, you still have a couple of days.
Yeah, make sure you check it out then. Up next, Impact Wrestling. This past weekend, January 16th, we had Hard to Kill, their big pay-per-view, the first big pay-per-view of the year. 3 matches, pretty lucha-centric. And we still have the continuing storyline between AEW and Impact Wrestling. That came through on the night's main event. Kenny Omega finally making his appearance inside an Impact ring, teaming up with the Good Brothers versus Rich Swann, and originally the Motor City Machine Guns, but Alex Shelley had some unforeseen circumstances and had to withdraw himself from the match, and so Moose came in and served as the additional third man. And as we kind of talked about last week, a lot of the momentum of the storyline had kind of trickled away over the past month or so since the big announcement and reveal of Kenny Omega on Impact Wrestling. I feel like though the match itself had a very strong delivery, some of the best in the business in this ring, I wasn't quite still impressed with the overall impact of this match, including ultimately Kenny Omega pinning Impact World Champion Rich Swann clean with the V-trigger and the one-winged angel. So, I mean, that didn't surprise me, but it surprised me in a way.
It was definitely surprising.
Yeah, it just goes back to
unsurprising, expected thing.
Yeah.
It just goes back to, you know, how much is Impact willing to sacrifice in order to be part of this partnership? Because now you have your world champion getting pinned by AEW's world champion. And so what we did get from this week's Impact Wrestling on Access TV was Don Callis mentioning that Kenny Omega is going to be taking a break from Impact Wrestling for a while. He seemed like he was going to, you know, refocus on activities in AEW. We did see the Good Brothers on AEW television, so maybe we're going to see them more on AEW, and seems like Kenny less on Impact, and I think that's okay for now. I mean, Kenny had a consistent presence on the show, but I think that especially after the big first reveal and then the attention and the numbers kind of dying down after that, it's a good time to take a step back. But an interesting aspect of this week's Impact Wrestling is that we had another AEW tag team show up to confront the Good Brothers, and that's Private Party. With the guidance of Matt Hardy, who previously was with Impact Wrestling, really had a career resurgence because of Impact Wrestling. They showed up, and so now we're seeing a little bit more of a different of an AEW presence on Impact Wrestling. So that I feel is actually a good thing. I feel like that's a good direction to take this crossover in, because AEW has some really great tag teams, and right now, Impact, you know, lost a tag team with the North, Ethan Page no longer with the company, and then some other of their tag teams like Team Triple XL no longer really doing stuff. And I'll go into that in a second. You know, even the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley seems to be out, but James Storm is taking a step back in. So, you know, who knows about, you know, that being a long-term duo in Alex Shelley's presence, but still very, very interesting in that aspect. But again, looks like we're taking a break from Kenny Omega on Impact Wrestling for now. But who knows if he may come back to try and take that world championship from Rich Swann. Speaking of Hard to Kill, we had a triple threat match for the X Division Championship. Manik versus Chris Bay versus Rohit Raju. And again, another classic, phenomenal X Division match. You see, Rohit Raju and Chris Bay still kind of figuring out their dynamic. After Rohit kind of screwed Chris Bay over to win the X Division Championship. Rohit's main theme for this match was to try and unmask Manik to show that he was really TJP. And he did. He unmasked Manik. However, there was a whole lot of face paint underneath, in which commentary played up. Well, we technically don't know if this is TJP. Like they've never seen or heard of TJP in his life, because his arms weren't covered up or anything. He had the same hairstyle. I don't know.
But one announcement was definitely on that's totally TJP, and the other one was not. So I really like that they did it that way. They kind of split the attention on that.
Yes. And Manik / TJP retained successfully. He showed up to Impact on Access TV that Tuesday as TJP. The wool is over no one's head anymore. Scott D'Amore admitted that, yes, he knew, TJP was Manik the whole time. And the big deal about that is that TJP lost a match against Rohit Raju, stating that he could never challenge Rohit for the X Division Championship again. And of course he didn't, but Manik did, and Manik won it, so that's the loophole. Anyways, it does look like we're going to see Rohit Raju take on TJP, not for the X Division Championship. They're going to have a match, but it's not for the X Division Championship. So that's the program that we're going to see. Chris Bay, I don't know where he's lying now. He may come back into the X Division Championship picture. He may show up in the World Heavyweight or the World Championship picture again. That I wouldn't mind that at all. But again, the X Division is so consistent and usually puts on some of the best matches of any Impact pay-per-view or weekly show. Now, the big news, though, coming out of this week's Impact Wrestling, both from Hard to Kill and this week's weekly show, is what's happening in the Knockouts division. At Hard to Kill, Taya Valkyrie faced Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts Championship. And this one, we talked last week about which Taya we were going to get. And in the ring entrance, we got still more of that bubbly, fun Taya. But in the ring, we got the much more serious, technical Taya. And that was the approach that she had to take in order to face Deonna, who is really one of the most technical wrestlers in the entire company. And so that's something that she had to face. Now, there was some outside interference or chaos that led to some distraction with Taya having the support of Rosemary and Crazy Steve, while Deonna had the support of Kimberly and Susan. However, at the end of the day, Deonna locked in the Venus de Milo, that armbar lock on Taya, and Taya did tap out. She really sold the injury afterwards, and it really did feel like her last match at Impact. And on Tuesday, well, that really came to fruition. Speaking of last moments, we had a closure to a storyline that's been happening for quite some time, and that was who shot Johnny Bravo. We had Tommy Dreamer on the case. They thought that they had the culprit, the suspect of it. But however, they noted that there was still, some accomplice. There was someone who put all of the gears and wheels in motion, and that was Taya. And Taya did admit that she was the one who sprayed Larry D with the ring rust to change him into Lawrence D, who would then shot Johnny Bravo. So, long story short, Taya put the wheels in motion because she did not like the fact that Johnny was marrying her friend. She thought that Johnny was not good enough for Rosemary, and so she put it all into place. But with that, because she admitted her crime, she was taken away by police and was going to be locked up. And for those of you who haven't watched the segment, it's kind of funny because they allude to where's Taya going to go to next. They mentioned possibly a stint in Jacksonville State Prison. Nudge, nudge. Maybe some time in Stanford. Another nudge, nudge. And AC Romero said, God hope she doesn't go to Baltimore. Nudge, nudge, nudge. Kind of playing as where Taya's going to go next. At the end of this segment too, she had a really nice moment with Rosemary. Rosemary saying, why did you do it? And she said, I just didn't think he was good enough for you. And so they had a really nice moment, bonding moment together, as Taya was sad and crying, and they embraced, and Taya was taken off in handcuffs. And that's the last we've seen of Taya Valkyrie in Impact. So, it does seem she is done. She's done with Impact Wrestling.
To the best of my memory, this is the only time after all of the heinous things we've seen in all of pro wrestling. I'm sorry, there was one time in Memphis when the police legit showed up to arrest a guy. But other than that, it's the only time anyone has ever been arrested for anything that they have done in the ring, up to and including murdering people in the ring.
Well, and she killed Luchasaurus and never suffered any.
Yeah.
I mean, back in Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, in Lucha Underground, the rules are very different.
Yeah. Nobody calls the police in Lucha Underground.
You just die. But she did get a good shout out. Brendan, you mentioned that AAA had posted something on their social media acknowledging her time being done with Impact.
Yeah, shortly after the Impact posted that Taya was probably going away for a while. AAA announced that she's still their Reina de Reinas champion, and you can expect to see her at some point. So maybe she's gonna stop in Mexico City on her way to prison somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, they have to get out of the red zone first.
Yeah, about that. So maybe not soon. I mean, the big speculation is where's she going to go next? Are we going to see her in AEW or WWE? And I think us as our trio, the consensus is we hope to see her in NXT. As far as the best women's wrestling out there. And because in Impact, especially over this past year, she's played more to her character side. We haven't really gotten to see her really wrestle in the ring. And she could absolutely do that in NXT. However, her husband, John Morrison, is part of the SmackDown roster. And we know that she's really great in acting, too. So if you want to take that Taya Valkyrie, I could absolutely see that character on SmackDown on Friday. She could easily come in on that character side, more of that sports entertainment aspect that she does well, and she could easily be plugged into a story. Maybe she does come up and maybe working with John and The Miz, and they become a trio. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be nice to see some mixed trios like that in WWE, or factions at least with women in them.
But also, Dusty, as you mentioned, AEW has an Eliminator tournament coming up.
Yes, coming up very soon.
I mean, we know that she's not part of the Dusty Classic after we saw, the brackets announced. And that was still going to be pretty soon, but who knows? Maybe we see her as part of the tournament. We saw them bring in a plethora of independent talent when it came to the tag team tournament. So it's very possible that they're going to need some extra talent for the Eliminator. So that too is, they would benefit from Taya of having her skill and her ability on the roster. They still have challenges with storytelling. Did we not have one women's match this week on AEW? It's still a struggle with them.
One really solid women's match on Dynamite this week. But yeah, they're still struggling. But the fact of the matter is, with someone as multi-talented as Taya, even if you're talking about the NXT women's division, which is inarguably the best women's division and possibly one of the best pure divisions altogether, she still would bring them up by being there. So there's no company that would not be improved by having a tool in the toolbox, like a Taya, who can do a hardcore match, who can do a technical match, who can be funny, who can be stylish. I mean, there's whatever role they need her to do, they can plug her in there, and then she has the flexibility to change gears later. So, we like you said, we all would love to see her in NXT because that would really let her showcase her talents. But I would also love to see her show up in AEW and help elevate that division where it really needs to be.
And again, I think because of that versatility, I could automatically see her being plugged in SmackDown. Like she doesn't, she could show up on SmackDown tomorrow and already just get it.
Yep. I don't disagree with your assessment of that. That's just, I don't feel that the way the WWE works that we would get the best version.
Oh, correct. Yes. Yeah. Show. I mean, again, if she shows up on Raw or SmackDown, we're going to get the sports entertainment version of Taya. But again, she knows how to do that pretty, I mean, I think with a lot of people that they bring in, they do, especially women, it seems like they first really try and build them up in NXT. Outside of Ronda Rousey, I don't really remember the last time they had a female signing that just went straight to Raw or SmackDown.
No, I don't remember one happening past.
Yeah. So if anyone can do it, it's Taya. But yeah, I mean, lots of questions on where Taya is going to land. Pretty much one of the biggest free agents right now in all of pro wrestling. And so it will be exciting to see where she ends up. It also does mean too, there's a pretty big lucha gap now in Impact. I mean, last week I talked about, this week in Lucha Libre, my match pick, or my match of the week, or not match, the moment of the week or day of the week, was the Lucha Bros versus Santana and Ortiz back in 2018. And since then, I mean, that Lucha presence on their roster has completely gone downhill. So, from a company that traditionally had a lot of connections and ties and shows in Mexico. They had one last year, to now really not having any major lucha libre style or representation. I think one of the only ones left now is TJP. And so that's it really out of a whole company.
And Willie.
And Willie, yes. Willie, he's been out a little bit because of his big match with Moose from previously. But yeah, TJP, Willie, just here and there. So that I think may hurt Impact.
Yeah, can't disagree with that assessment, but they probably have plans. If it weren't for COVID, that luchadors were the big rising trend in wrestling again. So I'm sure that once the borders are a little more free, we'll start seeing a bigger lucha libre presence from indie wrestlers, and more wrestlers in Mexico, even with AAA, are working for contracts that say they can work AAA and other companies. Only CMLL is signing people exclusively these days, and that may change too, depending on how badly they get impacted by lack of revenue from COVID. A very interesting time in the very near future.
Good points. And for our last story of this week's episode, MLW. Some of the fallout from last week's episode, but first a story that they released earlier this week, that they revealed a Septimo Dragon shirt to raise money for his recovery. It's available at mlwshop.com. Brennan, you talked about this previously, about Septimo Dragon's recovery after automobile accident that he was part of, a motorcycle, correct?
He was on the motorcycle. I don't know what the other vehicle was, but he was on a motorcycle. He had 4 surgeries, so I don't know what Mexican hospitals are like, but 4 surgeries and the amount of time that requires in America is a tremendous amount of money. So buy a Septimo Dragon t-shirt. And he's got really good like art and graphic design. You're not gonna be sorry you buy stuff for Septimo Dragon for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Court Bauer said that they've been inundated with fans asking how they can help Septimo Dragon, so they came up with a t-shirt, and any and all revenue MLW would receive will go directly to Septimo Dragon himself. So make sure to check out MLWshop.com for the t-shirt. It's a very cool design, just simple black and red, but just know that the proceeds from that t-shirt will go to him. And that's very awesome of MLW to do.
Yeah.
And that's through their shop too. I mean, it's through ProWrestlingTees.com as well. You can visit there. It's listed. But just make sure that, it's listed at $24.99, which is not a bad price at all, especially knowing that the proceeds are going to go to him directly.
Right? Yeah. And to your point, it's a good looking shirt. I'm
nice.
Gonna probably pick up a second one.
It's a pretty cool shirt. Very much almost like a magic eye. You have to look at it a little hard to to know what you're looking at, which is kind of cool. Pretty innovative, cool design. But for this week's MLW Fusion, some quick notes. Senshi was featured on there facing Daivari. The first time we see Daivari entering, especially now that he is aligned himself with Contra Unit. 6-minute match with Daivari getting the win over Senshi. A great performance by Senshi. I mean, I think he's been a really reliable part of the company. You kind of do see him more as this, lower to mid card performer. Not to say anything in a bad way. I think his ability is fantastic, but you kind of get the sense of, Senshi's role right now is more to help, support and upsell some of the other wrestlers on the roster. We also had an appearance by Tio Savio himself, Savio Vega. I have to, because he's Tio, that's probably.
Who also announced he's running for office.
Yes, he is going to be running for office in 2024. I don't know why that long, but he's going to be running for office in Puerto Rico, Alta Vega, which is where he's from in Puerto Rico. So, if you know anyone there, just make sure to keep an eye out. Tell him, to vote Tio Savio for mayor. He challenged Richard Holiday to a Caribbean strap match for the IWA Caribbean Championship. And this match was made official, so we're going to get that during next week's episode. A very cool kind of tidbit as far as his promo is that he said he still has the strap from the strap match that he had with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I believe this was in 97. Or 96. But, I mean, that's a really cool tidbit. And the fact that's what he said he's going to use on Richard Holiday. I'm not sure if that's entirely true. That's probably a little bit storyline, but I think it's a really cool, nice touch, because that is truly one of his most famous matches, and even one of Stone Cold's most famous matches as well. So I loved that touch, but we're going to get Teal.
That strap is way too good for Richard Holiday.
That is also true. That is also true. Richard Holiday should not be touching anything Stone Cold touched.
No, not yet.
Anyway. And then finally, as far as some lucha news, in MLW, last week it was announced that Promociones Dorado was acquired. This is the promotion that Selena De La Renta has owned and represented for quite some time. Alicia too interviewed Selena to ask her about this. Alicia specifically said her sources had let her know that power has been transferred over from Selena to an organization called Azteca Underground Inc.
Whoa!
So it's a pretty interesting name.
Mil Muerte shows up and Azteca Underground starts buying things. Coincidence?
Where's that Charlie Day picture when you need it? All the things lining up. Now, Selena did not confirm very much about this. She did not answer any of Alicia's questions. She just said that the focus should be on Mil Muertes, and in his pure dominance. So, Alicia did say that she is going to continue to research this and get to the bottom of this. So, if you know Alicia's on the case, we're going to get the facts. So I'm very interested in seeing where this story goes. And yeah, who has acquired Promociones Dorado? Is this going to impact Selena's as far as her executive producer role with MLW? Again, she has 3 opportunities to be executive producer throughout the year. We had one last week. We saw how much it benefited those luchadores like Mil Muertes and Los Parks. So 2 more throughout this year, we will see. But big news, yeah. Is this meaning, is there a connection here between Mil Muertes, his return, and Azteca Underground Inc.? Who knows?
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just gonna throw out the cheap plug there. Maybe Mass and Mayhem will have some insight on this too. So
yeah, solve the mystery, Masks, Mats, and Mayhem.
Yeah. Solve it for us.
Solve the mystery. This is like, can they be like the Scooby-Doo of Lucha Libre? Like they go around solving mysteries, Lucha Libre mysteries.
They can even take the masks off at the end. It'll be great.
Oh, we just created something here.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. We got to get in touch with them.
I just created a parody shirt for Mass Mats and Mayhem show, so that if any artists out there do that idea, I need credit for that.
Yeah. Well, we've reached the end of another episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And you can also follow Lucha Central on social media at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at LuchaCentralCom on Twitter. Don't forget to check out the YouTube page, as we mentioned before. They have tons of matches and interviews and great content that you can revisit, and it's all for free, all at Lucha Central's YouTube page. And while you're at it, make sure you follow us on social media. Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
Yes, I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy and Instagram at Dusty Murphy, all one word.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321. That's the numbers 3, 2, and 1. T-shirt guy. T-shirt is all spelled out. So 321 T-shirt guy. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the Instagram, where I logged in almost as many times as I logged in on Twitter this week, which is my 3rd one. I'm on Twitter. So Instagram's catching up, but it's more because I've been really busy at work and didn't log into Twitter and stay logged in this time. But on Twitter, I am the official inbox for Miranda as well.
That is true. I am not on Twitter, so make sure if you have any inquiries, questions, comments, to leave them at 321 T-shirt guy. But if you'd like to follow me, Miranda Morales, on social media, you can check me out at the #Miranda on Facebook and Instagram. Again, no Twitter, so go ahead and follow Brendan. And also don't forget, as that indie roundup shout out that we talked about earlier in the show, if you are an independent promotion and you'd like Brendan to check you out, make sure to reach him through social media. We'd love to cover you on the indie roundup, especially if you have some great Lucha Libre coverage. That we'd love to cover that. So make sure you reach out to us. But also, if you are a fan, just reach out to us on social media on any of our pages. We'd love to give shout outs to people who leave us messages, who let us know your thoughts on the show, good, bad, or indifferent. That's okay. We're tough. We can handle it. And also, while you're listening to the show, as I mentioned, you can find us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. You can subscribe to get notifications every time a new episode drops. You can rate us. Hopefully you leave a 5-star rating, like a 5-star splash. Just leave it in there. And then you can review. You can give us some of your thoughts and feedback on the show. Let us know some topics that we should cover in the future. Maybe things you like, maybe things that you think we could do differently. Whatever it may be, just let us know when you review us. So thank you all very much for listening. For Brendan Barr and for Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. And we'll be doing this, coming back, doing it again next week.
Respetable público, lucharán a doble